It's my pleasure to join you, and I must say that Helga's summary is very sobering, and really all I can do is put some important uh, technical details to it. Uh, and basically, the technical detail that is probably uh, most important in terms of raising alarm along the lines that Helga's already raised is the program that the U.S. has for upgrading its what I would call its prompt preemption strike forces. And this is a program that focuses exclusively on ballistic missiles, which are the most rapid means of delivery of nuclear weapons against Russia and China, and also, of course, North Korea. And in a war, if you were crazy enough to get into a war that's nuclear, these weapons would be certainly the primary weapons used to try to destroy uh, silo-based missiles that are mostly possessed by China and Russia. Now, just to give you a sense what a silo-based missile is, if we just jump to slide 5, uh, this is a diagram of what I would call a silo-based missile. The left side, the left figure in this diagram shows a large missile, 30 meters in length and 3 meters in diameter. Weighs about 450,000 pounds. It's a very big missile, able to carry a large number of nuclear warheads. And this is a Russian missile that exists in large numbers. The figure on the right shows how this missile is protected. It's buried in the ground. The top of this elaborate structure is flush with the surface of the earth, and the rest of the missile is buried underground, and the missile sits in a capsule that is protected by concrete and reinforced steel shells, and the missile itself is on a large spring-loaded platform. And to give you a sense, in the next slide just shows you what I need to use to explain this new innovation that the United States has been working on for the past 20 years in a super secret program. When I say super secret, the members of the Congress were not informed of it. And in fact, the program goes against guidance that was laid down by the Congress. Um, the um, um, shell, this gray-like cup that looks like an underground, an upside down cup, delineates the volume, the space in which a nuclear warhead, if a nuclear warhead detonates, it will do enough, it will create enough weapons effects that it would destroy the missile in the silo, which is shown below. As you can see, the distances are 50 meters and on a side, and the silo, of course, looks very small in this diagram. What the United States has done at great cost and effort. This was not an easy program to do, so it was not incidental, and it was clearly intended for purposes of expanding the nuclear strike capability of the United States. Is shown on the next slide. If you look at the inset on the left of this slide, the volume, what I call the lethal volume, which is the volume in which, if a warhead detonates, the silo will be destroyed. On the with lines lines going from the upper left down to the ground, showing you the incoming trajectories of a quite accurate set, quite accurate warheads. Now, the problem with this fusing is that the warheads have to reach a certain altitude and then detonate. So they detonate on a plane. So as you can see from the diagram, some warheads fall short of the lethal volume and other warheads fall long of the lethal volume. Well, with this new fuse, the new fuse has the effect of being able to collect all these warheads into the lethal volume. So this means that the percentage of warheads that would miss destroying the target is reduced drastically. The inset on the right shows roughly how this would be achieved. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to just jump to slide 10, which is just a redoing of the inset on the right. And what this shows is how this is accomplished. What happens is with the new fuse, instead of the aim point, the point where the intended warhead is aimed, the aim point is shifted from actually the silo to a little distance downrange of the silo. Now, the result of that is that warheads that would fall short of the silo can now be placed inside the lethal volume, and warheads that fall long of the silo can also be placed in the lethal volume. The way this is achieved, I'll be quick about this, but anybody who wants these diagrams can have them if they send me a note, or if the people in the peace conference want to distribute this briefing slides, I'd be happy to make them available. But if you look at the intended trajectory, if you were maybe 60 or 70 kilometers away before you arrive at the silo, you could measure the distance to the ground. And if the distance, and you know the time, and you know what the intended trajectory is, so you know exactly what the altitude of the warhead should be if it's on the intended trajectory. If the warhead is higher than, if the altitude is higher than what you intended because of errors that come from various sources, you then know that the warhead is slightly higher and slightly further away from the actual detonation point you would want to achieve. And so you make an adjustment while you are outside the atmosphere to make sure that the warhead detonates inside that lethal volume. Slide 12 shows the effect of this apparently simple adjustment. This shows you the probability of kill, that is to say, destroying the silo, if you have either a conventional warhead or what I call a super fuse warhead. The blue line shows you that the probability of destroying the silo would be around 0.85 or so. That's if it had the conventional fuse. But if you had this fuse that made these adjustments, you would instead have a probability of kill better than 0.99. Now, if you wanted to achieve a probability of kill of better than 0.99, you would have to use at least 2 warheads with the other kind of fuse. So what you in effect are doing is doubling the firepower of your arsenal with this particular warhead, which is the 100 kiloton W76 warheads, which is on US submarines. Now, this may seem alarming, but it actually is more problematic than you even might think offhand. If we go back to slide 3, there we are, and we can see what I've laid out are what I call the prompt, preemptive, strike forces. And the forces that are yellow, highlighted in yellow, the warheads in yellow, there are about 1,600 of these 100 kiloton warheads which have been upgraded with this fuse. Now, all of these warheads, which were not able, according to the US government planning, to destroy Russian and Chinese missiles in their underground silos, are now able to do it. So now this means that the warheads shown that are highlighted in green, which are higher yield warheads, no longer have to be used for that mission. So you have, in a sense, a giant increase in the ability to use the highest yield warheads in other missions. So just to give you an example of that, let's jump to slide 15. And when we 15 shows the high yield warhead, in this case a Trident 2 475 kiloton warhead, which are on the submarines. The submarines carry 475 kiloton warheads and 100 kiloton warheads. All those 475 kiloton warheads no longer are needed to destroy silos. So in this depiction, I show the Capitol building as if it were an underground structure, a command center. And now all these high yield warheads can be used on all kinds of other targets like command and control centers and whatever else the United States wants to destroy that are very extremely hardened. These are the kinds of upgrades that would only be done if you intended to fight and win a nuclear war, if you thought you could do that. Of course, you can't do that. In the process of fighting the nuclear war, you would destroy your own country and the other country, along with the other country that you're fighting. So, in fact, you would destroy the entire world. But so it's a fiction to think that you can fight and win a nuclear war, and it's an extraordinary delusional and counterfactual set of ideas that would lead anyone to believe you could fight and win a nuclear war. Yet the United States is putting tremendous resources into this war fighting capability. Let me just finish by making one point that I think everyone should consider. We have a couple of soldiers speaking after me, so I think they'll agree with me, but if not, I would welcome their input. If you're a soldier, if you're a Russian military officer, and you're looking at an adversary who is doing all these things, you have no choice but to consider the possibility that your adversary intends to try to fight and win a nuclear war against you, and intends to try to destroy a large part of your nuclear forces before you can launch them as a deterrent or in a retaliation. So in addition, of course, that particular adversary, the United States, is building missile defenses. Now, it's another story about how well those missile defenses would work. In fact, they won't work. But when you sit there as a military officer, intention plays a role in your consideration of your adversary. So if your adversary is putting these tremendous resources into doing things that look like they're aiming at fighting and winning a nuclear war with you, and building missile defenses that would take advantage of their first strike against you, if it worked, of course, you have to say to yourself, what is going on with these people? What is their doctrine? What are they willing to try? And this is a very dangerous situation, especially in the case of Russia, which has a warning system that is limited in some important ways, which I won't have time to go into here, but you can find this discussed in other forums. But I'll stop here. Thank you.